My name is Moses Momanyi. The founder of Kilimo, Minnesota, an incubator based in Cambridge. And I will introduce Kilimo more when I speak during the time. At this time, I'd like to thank everybody who has joined us, and I also like to thank the partners who have made this possible. I would just go around and have them take 20 seconds or so to just say their name and why they're showing up here in this webinar. So I'll start with, again, Robin, sorry. And then
No,
you can
okay.
pass it on.
I'll pass it on. I'm Robin Moore. I work with Land Stewardship Project. I'm based in Western Minnesota. I'll pass it to Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Stetler. I'm with the Land Stewardship Project, and I work in Southeast Minnesota with landowners and land seekers. And I will pass it to Lucia.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lucia Postel. I work as the farmer cohort facilitator for sharing our roots in Northfield, Minnesota. I'll pass it over to Gary.
Hello, I'm Gary Hampton out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm with the Ajani Group, Commons Land, and other collaborative organizations.
I'm going to pass it on to Katie.
Yeah, Katie Kabovchik with Big River Farms and also a land access navigator with Renewing the Countryside, and in both capacities working with land seekers. And I am in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I'll pass it to Bonnie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bonnie Warrendahl. I work as a farmland access navigator, and I'm also on staff at Renewing the Countryside. I am based in Western Wisconsin. I will pass it to Jules.
Hi, I'm Jules Salinas. I'm with Women, Food, and Agriculture Network. I live in New Mexico, and we also have staff, including Stephanie Enlow, who is our Director of Programming, also on this call, and she is in Iowa. And Stephanie, if you want to say some more, I'll let you speak.
Thanks for the introduction, Jules. Happy to be here.
In Valentine?
I'm Valentine Kedya. I'm with the Commons Land and the Twin Cities Community Agricultural Land Trust here in Minnesota, and I'm also grateful to be on a little iffy connection with trying to get home.
All right, Moses, that's everybody. Thanks.
Thank you all for making this work possible. I would now go to the next section, and this is where I will introduce is that the next section that we are going to do, the part that we're going to do is hear about the African immigrants and Africans in diaspora, Blacks, and farming. And I will speak a little bit about that and what I do with Kilimo, Minnesota. And then I will invite Murugi to speak what she's doing with the Tulime. Murugi is also in Minnesota. And then I'll invite Haisam. Haisam is with the Sudanese farmers, and they're in Minneapolis also. And then lastly, I'll invite Yves. Yves is in Illinois, and he's also working to start an incubator there for the African farmers. So I'll go back and I'll start, and then I'll pass it to Murugi when I'm done the next 10 minutes. I came to this country in 2004, and immediately I started growing in community gardens in Hopkins. I really was looking for vegetables that I could relate, that I had a test for. But I also wanted to do business. So I was also trying to sell it to fellow immigrants or friends that I knew. I also tried to go to the local farmers market in downtown Minneapolis and tried to get a stand there and sell from there. Eventually, I moved to Stillwater. I trained there at the Big River Farms for 2 years, after which I moved again to Wisconsin, St. Croix Falls, Emery, Turtle Lake, renting from other farmers. But the goal was to gain more experience, establish markets, and then when I would be ready with my now wife Lorna, then we would go to the lender, which was USDA by then, and then be able to buy our the land that we wanted. We were able to do that in 2014. We bought 20 acres in Cambridge, and we were selling at the farmers markets in Minneapolis, Mill City, Fulton, and others. We also did some share boxes. We did some wholesale, but mostly just farmers market. In 2020, due to the pandemic and the uprising of George Floyd, we then had more interactions with other immigrant farmers who are actually gardeners. They came to Cambridge, they wanted space, they wanted a place to farm, to grow, but also to just heal. And we felt that was a time we could open our land. We opened it, and that's how the Kilimo Incubator started. We had 13 people the first year in 2020. Second year we had 19. Last year we had about 28 people, but not all were in Cambridge. We eventually moved some of those people from Cambridge to Lino Lakes, where we found some, I think it's 14 acres, about 11 acres we found there, and we had farmers move there. We also started looking for other places that we could find that were closer to where this, where the new gardeners, farmers to be were coming from. Remember when we were in Cambridge, they were driving 1 hour every day back and forth to Cambridge from Minneapolis. So Philadelphia was 1 hour. Lino Lakes was about 20, 25 minutes from most of them. We had some place in Cochrane, the west side. So today we are continuing to look for incubator sites very close to the Twin Cities, because we believe that Kilimo believes that as immigrants, we come with the skill to farm, the zeal to farm, but we somehow get bottlenecked by just being in the city. We don't find a way to continue that. And if we found land that is closer to the city and incubate farmers there, then people are able to test out, to build their business before they can move on to buy land, a little farther out into the, away from the cities, just like I did. So that's why we are trying to reach out to many different people who are close to the cities, to even if it's an acre, even if it's half an acre. The other thing we did as mentors in Kilimo, we approached the markets that we were doing before. So I approached Mill City, and they were able to give us an extra space for a stall, and farmers could come there and take turns, maybe 1 or 2 in a season, and test out the farmers market. Same with the Kingfield. We were also able to go to food hubs like the Good Hacker and introduce these farmers and thereby build their markets. So overall, even though Kilimo is not like a fully registered 501c3, which is a non-profit, it's still under Renewing the Countryside. As Renewing the Countryside is a fiscal sponsor for Kilimo. We are still, we are working towards the goal of establishing an incubator. We are working towards the goal of finding land that is close to the cities so that more of the farmers who have been growing in these community gardens for years, some have been growing there for over 20 years and selling every year just a little bit that they can grow in these small community gardens. But now we want to enable them to move from that and do this process, which takes about 3 to 5 years incubating with Kilimo or any other incubator, and then be able to be ready to buy their own land. We have been able also to collaborate with Big River Farms. Actually, this year we are trying something with Big River Farms, whereby we want to partner with the solar company and occupy the spaces in the solar farms around the cities. So we are finding many ways of incubating, but the big one that we are pursuing is just finding landowners who are closer to the cities who can offer their land to be used as an incubator for farmers. I think I could say more, but I think my time is limited, so I would stop there. And if later we have questions, we can clarify or we can expand on anything about Kilimo. So I would then invite Murugi. Murugi will talk more about Tulime, a group of farmers in the Twin Cities. Thank you. Murugi.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. I would like to share my screen if that's possible. Yes, it's possible. Okay. See if that's possible. It's thinking. There we go. So yes, so my name is Murugi Motiga, and I'm one of a group of Kenyan women that farm together. And thank you for invitation to share just a bit about our farming story. This is our group of very hardworking Kenyan women. I run a group called the Kenyan Women in Minnesota, and from there, we were able, that's where I was, these women expressed their interest in farming, and so we formed our group back in 2020, and of course with COVID and everything, and going through a lot of personal losses, it really moved us also, and we had been thinking about farming. It moved us to farming, which has turned out to be a major healing for us because of that community, and also being outside and giving life to something else helped us. So we have Lily, Lorna, who is Moses' wife, who mentors us a lot. And then we have Wanjiro, Christine, Mercy, and me, Murugi. So importance of farming for our community is that we found that sometimes it's hard to get the vegetables we were used to from Kenya. And I forgot to mention that we're from Kenya, and the word tulime that we use for our group is a Swahili word which means let's farm. And it captures that farming is a collective thing, so we farm together. And so growing our cultural foods also is one of those, and of course trying new ones. So we have like collards, beets, Swiss chard, and then we have some sun gold tomatoes, onions and kale. And then to the far right, to the bottom, it's the managu, which is the African nightshade, which is a very popular green from Kenya, from a traditional vegetable that we've eaten that brings a lot of comfort, but also healing to our bodies. And of course, growing in the land just freely is the amaranth, which we use the leaves also for cooking. Another importance is that we're learning new ways of farming. We grew up farming, but it's different here when you have to grow one season and when to start. We learned that we have to start early by going to the greenhouse. Even buying the seeds, you have to buy early so you don't miss out. So we are learning new ways. Oh, we could also use tarp because we all have full-time jobs, but farming can't sustain us for now. So we usually work late after work and work late, maybe from 6 until 9:30 p.m. or something until it gets dark. That's when we're able to put this. So weeds sometimes have been, so when we discovered tarp, we're like, okay, this is a good answer, it helps us. And then it's also a way for us to pass on our cultural farming knowledge and wisdom to the next generation. This is my mom here trying out some of the equipment we got. And also our children come with us because again, farming is communal. So we come with our children. This is my son up there at the top. And then this is Lily with her children and other family. And then this is Wanjiro's child. So we bring our kids along, and in that also they are seeing, they are experiencing, they are feeling, and they are picking up on what we are doing. We also believe it's healing our bodies. Like we said, our bodies and our community, even the soil too, because we try to keep away from chemicals as much as possible. We are growing fresh produce now. We are able to, which is within easy access. We are also feeding our communities with it. And so that has helped, and also for our kids to try new vegetables, to see how vegetables grow. So even just coming together that regularly throughout the season creates that community that has been very helpful for our own mental health getting through COVID, just being able to share with other women what we are going through, especially because of the losses we endured during COVID, losing our loved ones. And then also, it has been an economic opportunity with Moses and Lorna's mentorship. They've introduced us now to the farmers market, and we've gone to Mill City Farmers Market. That's me over there selling, but each of us have been through there and made some money. So we are just learning. This is just a kind of, learning how to do this. And we've also been able to deliver vegetables to the Good Acre, which has been, again, another source of income. So we're learning on the job as we go, but it has been very rewarding to go through that. And then, I have to show you Lorna's market because she just amazes me. This is Moses and Lorna's produce from their farm, and at the Mill City Farmers Market from their Dawn to Dusk farm. And the good thing, as you can see, like I said, we are always communal, so you can see the children are there, and also part of our Tulime children also go. They enjoy selling, and even people enjoy interacting with them. So it's always a family and a community thing to do that. And so that's where we are hoping to go one day. We look at Lorna and we are like, okay, we will get there one day. So in terms of our strengths as Tulime really, and even as a community, is just our sense of community, how we share resources. Because when you're starting up, you really do not have the resources. And so someone may have this and the other, or even that time will invite people from the community to come and help us. So we do it together. That really helps sharing those resources. Otherwise, if I had to buy everything for my little piece of land, it would get too expensive. And then also our youth and elders are a great resource for us, because the youth are there, they're helping us, they're learning, we are passing on, but also the elders and their wisdom that we learned so much from. And so you can see my mom and aunt and Moses' auntie over there. And then there is also that agricultural knowledge and experience and wisdom that we bring from the years of growing up farming, that we could work with other farmers and introduce also and learn from each other. And then also another resource is just being mentors, like Moses has been a mentor to us. He can be a mentor for other people. We are also mentoring and working with students from the University of Minnesota, who are also trying to connect their nutrition knowledge back to the farm. My background is nutrition. I have I'm a registered dietitian, and so food is really important, and even the work that I have done and research I have done. So the challenges that we face is land access. It's big. Access to stable, affordable land. Sometimes you get land one year and then you're not sure you'll get it the next year. Farmer Tony has been very kind, and he's the one with the pink shirt at the bottom there. He's from Ethiopia. He has land in Cochrane that Moses mentioned that connected us, and he just lets us use his land. And he's given us about a quarter acre or a little over. So that really has been helpful. But there are also still uncertainties because he may be selling it. So we are not sure how it will be for the next season. And then sometimes access to loans. There are some stringent regulations. Sometimes the way we want to buy land is not how the bank operates. So we want to buy communally or work communally, but the loans work kind of different. And then there are many paperwork, and like we need a lot of technical assistance with that. And then just distance to land. Sometimes we have to, like, I drive an hour. Lily, I think, drives an hour and a half. So sometimes it can get to be a bit much. And then there's always worry about, the deers coming because we need fencing. Drought really caught us. I think that was 2021. And we were just starting up. We didn't have all the different things, and which cost money. So water access was a problem. So like you can see Mercy over here carrying water. We were laughing because we were like, this is what we did back home in Kenya. But here we are carrying water to go water our plants, our vegetables. And then labor costs also, because we work full time, sometimes we need help. And if we are to get someone to help us, we need to also pay them. And sometimes that becomes difficult to do. So, and like I said, those startup costs, the equipment needed, the tools needed, you need to buy irrigation. So like here, sometimes we use, when we get the bucket water, this had really happened because of 2021 was a difficult one because of drought. And so then using cups to kind of pour the water, plant by plant. So it would take a lot of time when an irrigation system, and we've seen them, but then you can't invest in land when you're not sure that you will have it for a long time. So you need to first, have that commitment that we can have land for a long time. So land access, it all comes back to that. Greenhouse, we use other people's greenhouse to do that. So that's an area of high need, and we have to go about an hour or so, an hour and a half to go get to where the greenhouse is. And of course, fencing. So all this can be quite expensive. And I'm just touching on the main ones. There are small ones, and even just that time that it takes to do all that. And then of course, training and our capacity building. There are costs associated with that. Sometimes there are grants out there, but we face challenges on grant writing, knowing how to do. I think that would be an area of great support, that paperwork processes. And then also just advocacy for us as Black farmers or African immigrant farmers, and whatever sometimes issues that we face. And so we appreciate this platform to be able to advocate for ourselves and give our story, and hope we can make connections and build relationships that will help us get there So in short, our prayer, and this is something we do before we start the season, is that we pray together over the land and over the crop that's coming, that we are going to be planting, for God to bless the land and the work of our hands and our heart. But along with that, we also pray for land that will be permanent, that will be a place that we wish. I wrote 20 to 25 acres, but really it's if each of us could get our 10 acres or more, we would be very happy. And then we want something that's within an hour of the metro, just because of the responsibilities we have, but also where our community is, that they'll be able to come and maybe have an area where we can create an African in the diaspora kind of place they can come and just feel at home, find a healing place where they can be themselves, connect to the land. The kids can run and be free. And have some programming. We have like many different ideas of things that we could do that could be healing to our community, and hope that we can even give spaces. We've been working with other people who are very interested in farming. They are watching us and wanting to join. And so we could also incubate some, bring them on to show them how to do this, so we can, and some people have said, you know, it has really made a difference for them in their health. And so we want to continue to do that. And another thing that sometimes happens culturally is that we don't always, as women, get the inheritance. So this would be a way to leave some inheritance to our children. It gives us that opportunity to do that. And so I hope, and then the fun part, of course, of doing this is we get to do it with our families and our friends. We build community. We usually have something together at the end of the season to celebrate and to give thanks. And always, Asante Sana means thank you. And always we are thankful to Tony for giving us his land. And so that is Tulime again, and that is our contact information, tulimen.mn@gmail.com. And I will end there. Thank you so much for listening to our story.
Thank you very much, Morogi. That is an inspiring story. Next, I will invite Haisam Abdallah. Haisam. And I will, I don't know, 10 minutes. Cool. Haisam, are you there?
Maybe send him the link again.
Moses, you're muted if you're saying something.
Yes, Moses, you're muted.
I unmuted myself actually. Okay, so is Haisam? Haisam, you are next. And Yves. I'm just looking through to see if Haisam or Yves are here. Okay, so if they join, they will tell their own story, but if not, I will tell their story. I have that opportunity, so. Go ahead, Robin.
Who is the final person?
Eves is from Illinois, Springfield. Yeah.
And-
Hello? I had a hard time getting on. The original link that was sent, it just kept on saying host is gonna let you in, host is gonna let you in. So I went back, I sent an email, and then I saw another link somewhere in another email. So maybe that person who's supposed to is trapped in that loop that I was in.
Yeah,
Okay.
Moses, I sent a reminder email today with the link again.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you could send that link to him. I also had a problem. It was the same thing.
That's frustrating. I'm sorry, everybody.
Okay. So
But we lost you, Moses.
Yeah, I think you went on mute again.
okay, I'll call you because we are in the middle of the presentation.
Sorry, everybody. If anybody has any questions for Marugi, now would be a great time for 1 or 2 questions.
Said Deborah, you had a question? Okay.
I don't know if I missed it. When did you begin this whole process? And how did you start?
Oh, yeah, we started in 2021. So 2020, when COVID started,
Right.
that's when we would meet over Zoom on another group called Kenyan Women in Minnesota. And then that we used to meet regularly. And then from there, we're like, okay, we need to get out there, maybe grow our own food. So then we were introduced, we were told, the Emerging Farmers Office told us, Lillian from there told us about Moses and connected us. And then from there, now 2021, we got he connected us to the land and we started.
And who found Tony and how did that get set up?
Moses is the one, under Kilimo is the one who connected. I don't know how he knew. Moses knows a lot of people, so he knows a lot of people. So someone must have told him about Tony, and then he said he thought that would be a good location for us. So we went with it, and it has turned out. So we didn't know Tony, but we become good friends now, and he just lets us use the land for free and the water too. He's been trying to fix it for us. He saw us suffer the first year, so he's been trying to help us.
It's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marugi, there's another question in the chat.
Okay.
How does Tulime, thank you. How does Tulime Group share responsibilities and proceeds from the sales?
Yeah, so it's so we start off, usually we put together money in a kitty at the beginning to buy the different things that we need. And then one of us, Wanjiro, is an accountant, so that helps a lot. So she has a spreadsheet where we put in everything, keep our receipts, and then from whatever little money we've been able to make from the different things, then we are able to divide up, and that's how we kind of do it. So we haven't seen much in profits. We are hoping this year will be better because we had well-wishers who gave us a small grant, which will help meet some of the costs. So maybe then from there now we'll be able to make a little bit more, and we just divide equally. So we share the debts and we share the expenses, we share the whatever proceeds.
I have a question. You had mentioned that you would like some support with grant writing. Have you applied for EQIP grants, or what other grants are you looking at that you would like to get support for grant writing with?
Yeah, sometimes we'll see grants, like we had seen, okay, the local producers one, local food purchase program, then we're like, oh, that seems a bit much, that's a bit hard. We've looked at some with not CDC, but Blue Cross Blue Shield, they have one through their prevention center we're looking at, and we're like, okay, maybe there's a way we could, but then time sometimes runs out on us. And because we'd like to really invest more even in getting more people involved in this because they really do want to, but sometimes that limits us, and even helping others with getting started up. We've also applied, and I don't know if Mercy is here. I know she helped us also with, they did one with Lily. Is any of you here? I don't remember what the other grant we did recently, though we didn't get it. We tried, but yeah, it's like you need a lot of time invested to really look and really write and know how to do it. So we're saying we really need to know how to do this, and maybe one of us can take it on as their thing. But once we start the season, it gets very hectic with all the other different activities and full-time jobs we have.
Yeah, in Muruge, Mercy and I are both on. Yeah,
Oh, good.
They're quite challenging, but we tried the best that we could. I'm Lily, and yeah, we need some help. And quite honestly, both Mercy and I, we are very open if we can get a resource to help hold our hands and maybe help us with grant writing or a little bit about it. We are interested in learning. Thank you.
Marugi, there's another question in the chat. Iris is wondering if the indigenous plants and vegetables from your homeland grow well in this current climate.
The ones we did, the Managdan African nightshade, they actually did very well. And when it rains, it's even better. And then the ones that just are manna from heaven, the amaranth just grows. And so we are able to pick that. So that grows well. There are other African vegetables, and maybe Moses could talk more about that, and we've been working with the University of Minnesota to figure out like the soil and the seasons and the times, something about that. Is it the jute mellow? Maybe Moses could say something about that.
So we are working with the extension, the University of Minnesota Extension, to do some trial on jute mellow, which is grown across the African continent. Pumpkin leaves. We have done spider plant, and even cowpea, which is African pea, not cowpea. We like to call it African pea. So, but we'd like to see which one are well adapted here, and then we can commercialize those, because we have a big population that wants the few farmers to grow that for them. Yeah, and we've been doing that with Natalie Hoydal of the University Extension. And then there's the breeding, Hannah Stoll, the breeding program in the U of M. I've seen Yves, and I would give Yves the opportunity to present. Yves, you have maybe 10 minutes, and then we will go back to Q&A.
Thank you so much, Moses. Normally, I will take 30 seconds. It's a pleasure to be part of this group. I'm sorry, I am driving. I have an issue with my car, and I have to go fix it. So I'm driving to go home, where I will be more stable to talk. But my name is Yves Dumaine. I was born in Africa. And again, I want to say thank you to all of you for being present here. I was born in Africa, in Cameroon. I grew up there, and I grew up in a farming family. I moved here in Illinois in 2017. I am studying agriculture business, which is kind of my major here. But before that, I studied agroforestry in Africa. So I have a very good background in agroforestry. Here in Illinois, I am a farmer, an urban farmer. I just started going into the rural area because access to land is not easy. So I started a project here, and the main goal of that project is to increase access to fresh food in undeserved community. The name of my organization is Motherland. Another part of the project is to take people and train them, to introduce them to the farming, like the farming world, what's farming, and train them, give them skill, transfer them skill. And the end goal is to, have them being involved in farming at any level that they want to be part of it, either urban farming or rural farming. Because as a minority, access to land is a little bit difficult. So the urban environment sometimes has some little opportunity that the rural environment doesn't give us. So that is kind of what we are doing here with Motherland. I'm going to go deep when I'm more stable. So this was kind of the little introduction. I will let you guys maybe talk a little bit, the time for me to park the car and join you guys in a more stable position.
Thank you, Yves.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and so I think I'll go back to Robin. The goal of this webinar really is to bring the farmers to the community they live in. Let the community know what the farmers are out there, and we know for America now, the baby boomers are starting to retire, and a lot of farmers are also retiring in that same token. But we would love to have more people involved in growing their food. And as the face of farming is changing, we also want to have the, like the community engage and create this relationship, because as you heard from Murugi, the relationship is not only between people, but the relationship also between the people growing the food and the land itself. There's that connection. So we, as African farmers, would love to have that connection, take care of the land. Most of the farmers here and in Kilimo, we practice organic farming, we practice communal farming. And communal farming doesn't just mean those who are involved in farming, but also the whole community, as a whole. So, Robin, if we would break into like regions, that will give the opportunity for people from that region to know who the participants are, because then in the next series, we will be like trying to go regional, so that the end goal of this webinar is to like really make the land seeker and the landowner have a relationship in person, eventually meet in person. So any question? If you would like to ask a question, you can press your hand using that reaction button, or you could put in the chat. And we have a team that is monitoring those in the chat. Do we have any?
Great to see you all. Just curious, the discussion a bit ago about grants and the challenges of grants. So for this year, season 2023, what would be the biggest needs that grants could help with this year? What kind of things are you thinking about? Thank you. And that was to the previous speaker.
Yes, Murugi.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, so some of the areas that we've been looking at is buying some tools and equipment, small, equipment. We've also, when we harvest our vegetables, sometimes we've talked about, okay, should we invest we need a cooler of some sort where we can store the vegetables. We're wondering, okay, I know there are different things out there. Is it a van? Is it are there, we are still looking at that to see. We also do, so a refrigerated truck, I think, would come in handy, or some kind of commercial fridge, and even a space to be able to do that. And then also we, sometimes labor costs, if we need a little bit of help with that, or yeah. So there are different things, and would have to sit down and write it more systematically, all the different things, because we're always saying we really do need this, but we need to put it down on paper more clearly. But definitely there is that challenge. And then also now when we set up the whole setup, because usually Moses covers us at the farmers market, but we need to get those like tents and tables and setting up all those things that we need that way. And that transportation piece.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard to know which things are going to be the best and where to get them and all of that. But no, all that stuff you don't think of right away. Tables and tents, and it all costs money, eh?
Yeah, we just find ourselves, oh yeah, we need to get this, we need to, so we are constantly, it's like money is just living. And then tarp costs a lot of money, because we can't afford the labor. So then we're saying, then we can invest in tarp and cover most of it, and maybe wood chips we need to get. They're like, oh, there are places we can get wood chips. Okay, we need transport, so it ends up going on top of everything else. And I'm sure Moses has had other experiences too, to add on.
Yeah, and I would say there are two like lands of grants. So in the land seeking land, this could be, I had a farmer who just got the down payment assistance grant from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, but they still were looking for more because they still didn't have enough to buy land that would be zoned as agriculture. Yet that grant that she was given is due June 30th. Like she has to have the land or the offer or contract or something like that affirmed by June 30th. So she was like, oh, I will end up buying 3 acres, even though I don't want 3 acres, I want 10 acres. So, and then there's the just operations, like Murugi is saying, as we train and prepare ourselves to like get to our own land, because the ultimate journey here, even with the Tulime, is how do we get to our own land, where, how big, and there are all kinds of resources that need to support that, housing, if they are a group, how do they get into that land as a group in housing? So grants could help in, like finding those resources who can help them figure out housing if they found land and they wanted to build a, complex where they could all be in that same land, something like that. I see Yves is here. I know he said he was going to say more. So Yves, we'll give you 5 more minutes and then we'll go back to Robin.
Okay. Thank you so much, Moses. Again, I want to say thank you to all of you who have taken your time to be here. So our project here in Illinois it is divided in 5 phases. We are now in the middle of phase 2. Each phase has 2 years. So our end goal is not only to reduce to increase access to fresh food and vegetable, but also we want to grow ethnic food because food is what put people together. Food is our culture. And as someone who grew up in Africa, I have a different definition of food insecurity than everybody, than some, than what we know. And for me, food insecurity is not having access to food, but it's having access to a food that is ethnic, that is relevant to me. That is something that I grew up eating. And unluckily, it's very difficult for someone who came from far away like me to find what I want. And even sometimes when I find it, it's very expensive. But we are in Illinois, we're in one of the best agricultural land of the world, so we can grow some of those products here. So our project also is having that ethnic relevant food that we can grow in our project. Now, another part of our project is breaking barrier and challenge for those who want to go in the world of farming. Farming or agriculture is a wonderful world, but it's difficult. You have to have resources, whether it's capital or access to land or equipment. And those challenge and those barriers usually keep people, most of those who are kind of minority background like me, out of it. And one of the things that we're doing with Motherland Garden is to break those challenges, break those barriers by helping people that want to go into that domain. Not only we train them and transfer skill to them, but also we find a land where they can put their skill at work and make it a living or a second income stream. So those are the things that we're doing. We also have beekeeping. So clearly, each phase is 2 years. And during that 2 years, we have a certain goal that we want to reach. Then when we reach that goal, we go to the next phase. We are in the urban area. We started already moving into the rural area, and we are looking to partner, like farmers who want to work with us. We have successfully have a partnership with a farm here. They offer us a space on their farm where we're going to be taking the farmer that we have been training in the urban area. Now we're taking them to the rural area so they can have access to more space where they can grow better and see how the process works. Because becoming a farmer is not something that you stop today and the next day you're a farmer. It's a transition. And mostly those who are living in the urban area, is a transition. They have to have some kind of system behind them to accompany them. So that is kind of what we are doing here with Motherland. I'll probably answer a question, but that is kind of the summary of what we're doing here. Again, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to express myself on this platform.
Why don't we have questions? Any
Yes.
questions that we have for Eve? You put them in the chat or go raise your hand or go ahead and say one out.
I have one that was from Natalie, and I think this is for all of the panelists. Just to get a sense of the size of plots people are looking for. Are you looking for so should we be looking at existing farmland, or would the folks in your networks find it valuable to explore land opportunities in suburbs that might be more like 1/10 or 1/4 of an acre, thinking, church lawns, large residential lawns, etc. So if you could comment on size and location.
Okay, so this question is for me?
For all of you.
Okay, so I don't know if Moses want to answer, but I can answer it. So we're looking into lot in the urban area and also in the rural area, because when we plan the project, we know that it's going to grow. Last year, I have 2-3%. This year, I have close to 15. And I have to divide my own property because I have a 1 acre lot in the city. I have to divide it, and to each person, I assign a little raised bed. That raised bed for me is not just for them to grow, is to train them, because most of the people who come to it have been, maybe some of them has garden, some has never really been close to agriculture or to farming. So it is a process to train them. It is a process that when you know that this person is ready, it's because you have seen the person at work, handling a little raised bed or handling a 50 by 50, a 50 foot by 50 foot lot. So we are looking into space in the urban area and also in the rural area, because we have more space in the rural area than in the urban area. And for the question where we are located in Springfield, Illinois. Springfield is the capital. It's like 2 hour, 30 minute or 3 hour south of Chicago. So that is where we are.
To add to that, I would say I see the size of plot in also different lenses. For incubator like Peeves or the incubator I'm doing, and there are other incubators that are coming up, those will be slightly big sizes of land because, you know, you want to have even 30, 40 people getting about a quarter to an acre of land. And then because people or the gardeners or the farmers are training, they would, those who have more like time or, you know, resources, they can get more elsewhere. Actually, some of the farmers that I work with, they have not just in those sites that I mentioned, they have other plots. Just growing tomatoes or kale or beans, green beans that they are learning how to grow and sell to the mainstream, but they also want to grow this white heirloom corn and sell to the other immigrant population. And then there are those that want to start a relationship with landowners that are a little outside the cities, because that's their goal, that after they train and they have done some record keeping and build this business, they would buy their own farm that is maybe a farm, not a garden, not a plot. But they'd like to start that relationship. And that is the overarching goal of this series, to introduce this to all stakeholders, so that if you want to build a relationship, a long-term relationship where you will eventually transfer or sell land, but then this is how we want it to start. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'll let Murugi say and the others then.
Yeah, for us, would like land that's closer because of what we want to do with the different families that tend to be in the metro areas. So thinking something within an hour or so, and that of course poses challenges because it's a bit more expensive. And yeah, but sometimes we've gone, we look at Lakeville, or we'll look at farmville, like, oh, there's this one, I think I saw 127 acres somewhere, Stillwater or Lakeville, or so some of those we can even, yeah, just not too far, then we wouldn't be able to do some of the programming and things that we would want to do. So, and then there are those farmers or people who are really gardening, and maybe they don't have enough room, they've used pots and everything, and so they're telling us we just need a small piece. So then we contact the cities and we try to advocate for them early enough, because some of those plots go very quickly. So talking with the cities to provide even those small plots, and also churches are beginning to answer the call in that sense, and providing just the small plots for people who just want to supplement, to be able to grow their own food. So there is those small asks that are not as big, but for us, it's to be able to have something bigger, that because we are five of us. So we've talked about maybe 20 acres altogether, or maybe even 50. Then we have 5 acres each, and we can do something together. So we still go back and forth on that and how to do that. And so we'll explore. I'm looking at the suggestions given, and so we'll explore some of those communal land ownership models to see how that works.
If there's a question on how did you get started? Did you talk about it?
Yes. So clearly, when I moved here from Africa, I already have in my mind, I have a very good background in agroforestry, and my work was to go into rural community and help farmer improve their production system without adding any stress on their resources or on them. That was kind of what I was doing with a non-for-profit in Africa. So I have that good experience. So when I first came here, it was a new country and I have to take time to study the climate and even how the season goes and everything. So the first step that I did was to go in the community garden. I was lucky that my school has a community garden. So I started there, get one raised bed, and I also use a backyard of some of my friends. I will tell them, hey, you can have a lot of space here. It's only grass. I can turn this place into a garden. They said, okay, go ahead. Then as I kind of understood, the first year, for example, at the community garden, I didn't get anything because I grew corn and green bean and there was no fence. So the deer came and ate everything. So that was a learning experience. I learned that the next time you grow something that the deer want to have access to. So clearly, as I learned more, I started getting more raised bed. I started with one, then at a certain point, the community garden, I have more raised bed than everyone else. So people started reaching out because usually I would share the harvest. I would call friends and have them come there, harvest and share it. You know, they told me, hey, you can do better. So then I went and purchased 1 acre of lot. I purchased it from the county because usually the county in any city, I think even the city in some of our state, they will be putting some empty lot on sale. I kind of did a lot of research to find the one that really fit my need. It's kind of a lot of work because you have to go on the field, visit a lot of lot, see which one could be farmland and which one could not be. And usually you're not sure at 100%. But for example, you have an empty field versus a field that has a lot of tree. If you buy a field that has a lot of tree, see, to grow stuff there is going to be difficult. But if you buy one that is just empty, it's grass, you can clear the grass, and then you have a field where you can easily start a garden. So that is kind of how I built the whole project. It took me 3 years to be able to understand the climate and also have access to that acre and purchase it.
How many farmers do you have? Oh, you said 15 now.
Yeah, I have 15 now and that I'm working with. Some are here right away where I am, and some are in the Metro East area. Metro East is a little bit down south, going close to St. Louis. And I use their community garden to train them. So we work like that. And if I can add something regarding the land access, yes, in the we are really looking into having more plot in the city and also having more acre in the rural area or in the farm that are out of the city. I would say roughly we need maybe 50, 30 acre, but it's always good to adjust the resources to our capacity. Like for example, if you have 50 acre now, is Motherland capable to farm the whole 50 acre? No, but do we have the intention to be able to farm 50 acre in the future? Yes. So definitely we need more space. It's just like we want to adjust it. And another thing that I find out is like some of the landowners are willing to pass the land, but sometimes they have some rules that are kind of difficult for you to work a bigger space. Like, for example, in the contract that I have now, the person doesn't allow you to use a tiller, like just a tiller. It is totally ecological. You have to do everything, no herbicide, no fertilizer, nothing. And imagine that you have like that 10 acre. Is your hand and you're going to use straw, wood chip to cover that field, 10 acre to grow. It's a lot of labor. So those are also things that in this process, we would like landowners who are willing to allow a lease or just a contract or something to kind of have rules that are that to make it easy. Because if you have 10 acre that you are going to use straw and wood chip to cover, or plastic or tarp or cardboard, is a lot of work just to cover the field, to control the grass and the weed and all that. So those are the things that I want us to work on it.
Thank you. Robin?
think, Karen, there was a question about leases. I just want to add to that, like, that's one of the things that I do a lot is working with landowners and leases and contracts between landowners and farmers. And sometimes, you know, like a landowner has some really strong conservation values, and that doesn't match up with all of the farming practices, especially for small vegetables, like you're talking about with tillers or, you know, some of that stuff. And there's a way to like work towards those kinds of, you know, you can as a landowner, you can invest in your renter to start building knowledge and capacity around no-till systems, but you can't like start with them. It's really hard to start with a farmer like needing no-till and zero inputs without having a supported plan to getting a farmer being able to do that. And I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but know that you can reach out to me to like landowners or farmers looking to build a plan with a landowner to like think through how we can do that in contracts. So it doesn't, you know, put all the weight on the farmer to figure out all the problems, and we can still talk about those goals for the long term. Karen, you had mentioned a question.
Yeah, there was a question that just kind of like dovetailed really nicely with what Yves was saying about the contract. And so I guess like kind of a broad question, are you using lease agreements with landowners that you're working with? And then what kinds of things are you thinking that work, or things that would work better? And you started sort of answering that already, Yves.
Okay, sorry that I went faster than the question.
No, that's great. It's a nice segue. Yep.
Yeah, so initially the landowner offered me a 1-year contract, but when we have a, you know, we were discussing, I told the landowner that a 1-year contract is too short. I kind of extended the contract to 5 years. So the landowner was very nice. The landowner accepted a 5 years contract. So that 5 years give me access to a certain acreage, and I have the right to start little and make it bigger as more people join the group that I have. So that is kind of how we build the contract. And one thing is like we share resources. When I say share resources, like that organization has 40 acres and they decided to take it off. They used to rent it to farmers, but they decided to take it off renting, leasing to other farmers so that they can develop their own project. And again, as I said, farming is kind of really a very, very high cost business to enter. So they decided to partner with us so we can use the space to produce vegetable and fruit. So we exchange service. Motherland is not paying any penny, but I just did a donation of seed to them or plant. If I am going to a conference, I can pay the conference and bring some of their members. So it's an exchange of service. We are not paying any dollar, but we're exchanging a lot of service. And that way, the cost of doing the farm, like everything, the little resources that we have go into producing. So the focus here is more on producing. So we are sharing all the resources that we have. We share resources with them, and also we are going to give them part of our harvest, like 20% or something like that.
I'm wondering if Marugi or Moses has any thing to add around leases and the experiences that they've had with leases. If you use them or not, how long, and what are some of the things that work or don't work?
I've one funny lease I have is a handshake lease, and it's very uncomfortable because it makes this farmer was offering me 10 acres or 12, but he wants no lease because for whatever reason. And one reason was he wants just maybe one farm on the farm and not many. And I was trying to say, hey, I want to bring a few other farmers, and then kind of incubate them here. It's close to the cities, but he said he's uncomfortable writing anything down. So I went back and forth just to judge on like just to learn him and be comfortable with him. And the first year I did just give him a check and I tilled. No, there was no problem. The second year I kind of didn't go back to him, but he kept calling me and wanting me to lease it again. And so that's the one I know, but again, because there's too much pressure for land that sometimes immigrant farmers would be tempted to just do a handshake list. And most of them have faced this problem of growing there 1 year and maybe coming with, things don't seem to be the way they are and like the way the landowner expected. And then at the end of that year, they are kicked out. And so they are more like nomads again around leasing land. Yeah, and then there's another one that I got, but was very shaky. Like it just didn't say much. It just said this is the price. But then there's not a list of other things that are expected into the lease that normally a lease would require. And sometimes it's hard for me to like judge and say, wait, if I start asking for more, right? And say, hey, this list is too shaky, it doesn't have much. I don't know what the landowner will like, if the landowner will be like the other one who said, I don't want any paper, I just want a check. You have land, you trust me, that is it. So those are the two that I've seen, but but there are others that are very like ready to work with the farmer, like the one in Lino Lakes. I have it up to 2026 tentatively, and the landowner was allowed me to do a GoFundMe and put a well into the land, and I pulled electricity from the pole and not from any of his property to the well. But again, I would say I'm seeing leases very different. I don't think we did any lease with Tony.
Yeah, we didn't.
We have not done any. So that's kind of what I'll say. Yeah.
Yeah, because for us, yeah, it's a little different. Yeah, it was more an agreement, which I guess culturally holds, because your word of mouth holds you. So and we honor that, and so that works so far. And the only reason we are, it's shaky whether we'll be there, it has more to do also with his own journey with land ownership, having bought a piece of land that he had many ideas for, only to realize that there are so many restrictions that he should have known about. But it's sometimes not knowing that, oh, it doesn't have a building permits, or the building permits are gone. You have to ask the neighbor if they can sell you one at whatever price. And so all the ideas he had about what he wanted to do with his land, he couldn't, because of those other things that come. There's control on, I think, foot traffic, how many animals you can have on the land. So coming from, as an immigrant, coming from a different setting where once you buy land, you own it, you do what you want to do on it. Sometimes you don't even know to ask certain questions. And so it has been a learning process. And the good thing is that he's shared with us that, so now even as we look, we know to ask these questions, because now he has learned that now his choice, he has no choice but really to sell it, because it's not meeting the goal that he had. And so we may not have land next year, but it's because of that.
Yeah. Thank you, Murugi. do we have any, maybe one last question? Because we.
If I can add something, for example, the model that I developed, I took 1 year to build a relationship with the person. And for example, I offer myself as my organization is a non-for-profit. So I got a grant for capacity building. And when I talked to them the first time, I realized that they were still a new organization. So new organization need a lot of help and a lot of planning, strategy, a lot of things. So I asked them to come to that training for free. Normally I could have charged them. I told them, come to the training. They came to the training. It was like 3 weeks training or something like that. They got the training for free. It kind of built the relationship. They look at me as someone with someone that they can work with. Then the relationship just keep growing from there. But clearly, the reason why I took 1 year was to make sure that what that organization want, build trust is very important, because it is not something you are going to invest a lot. I am working on a project with NRCS or USDA to have the project happening at that land. That equipment or the resources that I'm bringing there, I will never be able to take it back. Even I decided that I'm stopping the relationship, or after 5 years, I don't want to continue, or something happened. So I really wanted us to have that trust relationship. So it took 1 year to build that trust. So I think I would suggest it to any person willing to go into that type of contract, take time and build that trust, that good relationship before, going for contract or stuff like that. It's very important.
Robin and Moses, do you think we have time for one more question, or would you like to move on? There's one that's been sitting in the chat for a moment.
Well, let me do this. Let me just, Moses, if this is okay with you, let me just say a couple of things in closing. I want to share, we do have a Google form that we're asking people to fill out that gives us a little bit more information about you, and also make sure that we can share information back with you. I'll put that in the chat right now. We're also going to send out a follow-up email that will have the recording, that will have some of the contact information. I'll try and pull out, there's a lot of good resources shared in the chat. I'll try to pull out some of those chats. We'll try and capture as much of this and share it back out to you. I do just want to say, the title says it all. Like, we're working on building community for land access, and that looks like a lot of things. That looks like landowners meeting people seeking land. That means community members showing up and understanding more about what the needs are around where they live and how they can help. It's sharing resources about how contracts are working, what's not working, where we can get like support for that. This has all been, even though it was a little chaotic and some of the pieces weren't as smooth on my end, I still feel like we really achieved some familiarity with each other and some building community and some ways to support each other towards land access and building the communities that we want to live in. So I just want to thank everybody and say, let's keep doing this. We'll have another webinar where we're sharing some more stories from the farmers, and hopefully we're also sharing some landowner stories. And I'm willing to stay for another half hour to 7:30 for more questions too. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm a resource, Robin at Land Stewardship Project, but everybody else here is a resource as well. And so we'll do as much as we can to share information and make sure that people get their questions answered tonight and on. We'll also I'm sorry, one more thing. In the follow-up email, we'll also be listing a lot of upcoming events with all of our organizations and anything else that people want to share there for upcoming events.
Thank you, Robin. So yeah, this was scheduled to end at 7. If you feel free to stay and continue engaging, you are welcome to. We can extend this to maybe 7:30. So Lucia.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everyone for those hopping off. Appreciate you joining us. Lizzie wrote, are there certain business types that work best for accessing land? What types of company structure works best for your community? And is that favored by the landholders? is forming that organization a barrier to getting started? So it sounds like all of our panelists are organizing in some capacity. But yeah, curious what types of organization and organizing are helpful in this process.
The question is for everybody.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
No, I will let Moses talk, then I will follow.
I was just going to say, well, I am new. I've never been in the land access circles. This is maybe the second year. And initially my thought was a co-op, like forming a cooperative, because in Africa, that's how we access land. We come together, we put in shares, and then we approach a lender, and the lender, based on the co-op as an entity and the amount of contribution people have done, is able to multiply that maybe by, I think, in 3 times or 4, and then you go buy land, and then now after you bought that land, the members buy pieces, like they're able to pay off and then get their subdivided piece out. But of course, in this country, that one is a little complicated, because of zoning and all other things. Yeah, and Muruge can talk about their journey to looking for land and trying different approaches. I know, Muruge, we started with trying to figure out if it's a co-op, and they took some classes on that one, and now you are doing something else. And then I've also I'm part of the Commons Land, which is an agrarian agrarian commons organization, where we would like to be part of a community, access land as a community, and live on land in a certain way. So commons land is, I know maybe I'd point out to anybody who is part of the commons land to chip in later, but I've a group of farmers who are interested, actually not a group of farmers, maybe all farmers I work with have formed groups, and they have requested to be part of that process of accessing lands through the commons approach. So that's another way that I can think. And then the last one, of course, has been just the normal business approach, where we just do record keeping and then find any lender and buy land as an individual. Yeah. And all of those 3 are what I still am trying to figure out, if Kilimo can access land through any of those 3. I have not really. Kilimo is still looking to be an incubator with at least 50 acres, very close to the cities. But how to hold that land is still on research. But thank you.
Okay, so does Murigi want to say something before I can?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So clearly, as Moses said, I too, I am a little bit new to it, but I think the best thing to know first is what is appealing for the landowners. Like, I probably have some landowner in this meeting, in this Zoom. What is appealing to them? Like, why do they want to transfer the land? Why do they want to allow to share what do they want to share some part of their land with, why do they want to share some part of their land with people? And I think if we find what is appealing, and that way you put the organization or your business the way that is going to help the landowner find some kind of connection with what he's doing. And most of the landowners that I have met so far, or the one that I met either during a conference or around here, most of the time there's kind of a equity, a social justice. They just want to be able to share that part of the land that they have with people who doesn't have the possibility to have access to it, or with those who face a lot of challenge to have access to land. And that way, being like a non-for-profit, could be a corporate, a co-op, could be a just a 501c3 or something like that, is better because they realize that they are passing that land not to only one person that is going to exploit it for only him, but they are passing it to many people, and it's going to have a more impact, and also is an efficient way to to kind of do that social justice, that equity, if I can say it like that. So for me, the model that I think, but I haven't been able to, I can't prove it right now because, you know, we are still at the beginning, is more the cooperative model or the non-for-profit model, because farm can be a non-for-profit. Motherland is a non-for-profit. Our system is from social to profitable. Our model, our business model is from social to profitable. And I think it is one thing that was appealing to this organization that we're working with, because at first they didn't see someone who is just there for his own interest, who is ready to just come and get a piece of land and start growing stuff. No, they saw something that this guy is studying this, he has experience, he has some knowledge, and he decided to take people who are still in the beginning, train them, transfer them skill, and work with them the way that they can become stable. They can become autonomous, in their own system and produce their own food. That was one thing that was very appealing to them. So when they saw our model, they heard about what we are doing and our goal, they decided to work with us right away. So that is kind of my suggestion, if I could answer that question that way. Thank you so much.
I want to encourage anyone to go ahead and ask a question out loud. I'll let everybody know once again that we will be sharing a recording out, and I see Lily has her hand up. Lily, would you like to ask a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, so sorry about that. Mine was just to add a comment. It's good to see you and the rest of the team. Thank you guys for hosting this. It ties to the land owners who are looking to transition their land. Something that has always stood out for me is there's a conference we attended, the Emerging Farmers Conference, and I believe also for the Marble Seeds Conference, where there were owners who are willing, but you can tell there's a lot of reservation on who they transition their land to. I think there would be a need to have more open discussion, or maybe be more informed on what it is that would motivate them to consider either leasing or selling their land. Because when you come, it's almost like an interview. Some people are very good at interviewing. Whatever job they apply for, they'll interview and get it, but they may not be the best employee. And then there's the one person who may not interview very well, but they have all the skills and ability to perform very well. So you find there's that slight disadvantage, and I'll just speak maybe for the immigrant community, where English being a second language, the way we articulate ourselves sometimes may not resonate very strongly as we want it to be when our intention is very crisp. So my suggestion would be, would there be room to have a workshop, just an open dialogue with these folks, so they get to hear us? Because there's something about when you sit with somebody and look them in the eye and they get to ask you questions and they get to see through you, they may have a different appreciation for what you are looking for. Could it be that maybe you all educate us as those who are resourceful to help us understand how can we get through to make them realize we are very passionate, and we are not going to take what they've worked for so many years for granted, because I do tell there's a reason why they're reserved. I think sometimes instead of thinking, you know, they're just pushing me out and all of that, maybe the most important thing is bringing them in so they lift us up. And if we could do that, I think that would help tremendously. Even if the fear is to sell it to you, could there be an agreement to lease it first, lease to own? Maybe lease to own, on a way to gauge how committed we are. And the lease could be something like 3 to 5 years, because as any farmer, 1 year is nothing, you know. So it could be a lease for 2 to 3 years, or even a longer term lease where even if it was a 5-year lease, I feel like I could build, you know, have a greenhouse, hoop house. And even if I had to walk away from it, what I've done for 5 years with my hoop house, I think translates to a lot of good things, even if I had to walk away from it. But I recently found out some of them you can actually dismantle and go with it. So that is kind of where I am, is there has to be, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over and thinking we're going to get better results. It's just trying to figure out how we do it to be more effective and efficient, because I think they really mean well, but we must find a way to come across. Sorry for taking up a lot of time. Thank you.
No, I just think you advertised really well some of the other parts of this series, which, you know, we want to have another one online where we're listening to stories of farmers and also stories of landowners, so that people get to hear each other and understand how they're talking about things, and kind of, you know, a less high stakes space, like a webinar space, is a little bit easier to step into. But then we want to have 2 in-person meetings as well, where we meet at different farms and give people exactly the chance to do exactly what you just said, Lily, which is be around each other, look each other in the eyes, get a chance to get to know each other and understand the passion and opportunity that we bring to each other. And even if we don't look the same or come from the same background, so many of our values and how we want the world to look like lines up. Valentine also had a question in the chat. And Valentine, would you be willing to kind of summarize that question out loud? I'm not always the best at that.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. I was just noting, you know, if you have had frustrations or think, ooh, this is a banker or a lender or a realtor or anybody who could help me, who doesn't really understand what I'm trying to do and doesn't really understand the current transition toward a much broader kind of farming or collaborative farming. The next series after this series that Gary and Aaliyah and a lot of us are working on with Commons Land is specifically geared toward helping to call in service providers and raise their literacy. So if there's folks that you would like us to contact, or if there's folks that you think, oh, I'd love to tell my friends about that, the dates are on July 13th and 27th. And we will also send out more information about that in the follow-up email. And if there's other like areas, tax assessors, others that you think we aren't thinking about, but you think, oh yeah, they need to be part of this conversation, we would love to hear that. And we will do our homework on how to call them in.
Thank you, Valentine. I see Beatrice is back.
Sorry, so my name is Beatrice and I am a farmer in Chicago, Illinois. And I like the discussions and the challenges that have been listed by the farmers in the group. And I will just give a little bit about myself. I have I would say I have walked the same path that most farmers are going through. I rented farm. I have never gotten free, some of you free spaces like some of you, but I have always rented my farm for the last 5 years. And I think that kind of, you know, puts the pain and the motivation to own my own land. Right now, I am in my 6 acres of property that is 1 hour away from Chicago. And I went through the same process of trying to acquire land through conservation easements and farmers who are transitioning, and I saw that exchange of land. Sometimes it happens that when a farmer wants to sell their land, they will sell to their own. I'm sorry to say that, but they will pick their own before they pick you. So that is my experience, my bad experience, but maybe some of you will be lucky enough. But I would encourage the upcoming farmers to pay attention to everything. Like if you're trying to buy land or if you're trying to get land that is being transitioned, pay attention to the way the cards are being played, and don't waste too much time trying to acquire something that you may never be able to acquire. So, the cards are really laid out well, and, everybody's a smile on their face, but when it comes to the real thing that you are most likely, for myself, I was most likely to be passed than and other people had a better opportunity. So if you're able to acquire your own, please go ahead and do it. And you go through all these land leases and all these agreements you have to do. I have been through them. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to plant this. I've been through all that. And I think just having something that you can pass on to your kids in the future, and also you can do whatever you want with it. That is very important. And, as much as you're trying to get help from other people or trying to get that to be lucky, also pay attention to the other side of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. Nice to hear from you. Cool. Any other comment, question? We have 5 minutes.
This is Lily. I'll just add a very quick one also. I don't know if we've ever, and when I say we, it's because it's all of us, we are in it together for the same goal. Have we ever had, I know we talk about diversity, equality, inclusiveness a lot, but do we have where some of the farmers may be in areas that may not be very diversified per se, for what it's worth per demographics, where we can have more education out to them? And I bring this from my passion of policy and advocacy, which is something I work on. So I really believe we are more alike than we are different. But when the message is right, it resonates. Could there be maybe a little bit more, I don't know how to put it without necessarily the umbrella of DE&I, but just finding a way to open up the minds of some who may be a little bit enclosed, to realize when we are saving the earth, saving the soil, renewing the climate and all of that, it impacts all of humanity, and maybe presenting it that way. That's something maybe that could be considered to help also with this cause. Thank you.
Yes, I think that needs to be constantly considered. I think you're absolutely right, Lily.
Well, if there's no any other comment or question, I would like to say thank you to everyone. This is really informative, and I can't wait for the next session, because then we will hear from more farmers and farmers, both landowners and land seekers. So I think it's May, is that June? I'm not good with the dates, but yeah, we will send a follow-up email to everyone about the the next session, we'll get farmers to tell their stories, and then we will learn more. So thank you very much. And thank you for the organizers and everyone, and have a good night.